Hey man, I'm just pausing, man, to say what's up, to get on here. I do not have a lot of time, but I do have some very valuable information. I've got my notes written down. I do not have a lot of time. And so this is the opportunity to lean in. Today, I'm going to be talking specifically to people who are struggling with fat loss, people who are struggling with your confidence because you haven't seen the results, people who are busy and you put aside time and you're expecting results and you finally mustered up the confidence to get started, but this is the truth that nobody wants to tell you. I'm going to give it to you, but I do not have a lot of time. So I'm going to ask you up front to share this with somebody. I'm going to ask you to think about somebody who thinks this way, talks this way, feels this way, because we want to get this out, man. You do not have to stay in the fat loss conundrum. You do not have to continue to try to cover up your zones or your body in a way that's not healthy for you. You do not have to move through this sometimes emotionally and psychologically difficult period by yourself. I'm here for you, but I do not have a lot of time. So go ahead and lean in. And if you're watching and it's you, you know you struggle with fat loss, like you've been here before, but you're just trying to figure out how to get over the hump. You want to be sure to pay attention right here. And I appreciate you in advance for sharing your comments and sharing your words. But today I don't have a lot of time, so I got to get started. Right. This is the truth that nobody talks about. Right. Nobody wants to have this particular conversation. Not the influencers, not your coach, not your trainer, not your fitness partners, and not even yourself. Like, and sometimes, particularly if you're a man or somebody who has a lot of pride, what I'm about to say is something that we do not say well and we do not talk about. But I'm going to say it for you. And I really want you to lean in. I really want you to just be here with me because somebody's going to be watching this and they're going to experience some difficulty and some challenge just from what I'm about to say. Are you ready? If you are ready, put ready in the chat. I really want to tell it to you. Here it is. Fat loss hurts. There it is. If you got it, type it into the chat. That fat loss hurts, and not just physically. It messes with your mind. Yes, it does, right? It messes with your mood. You've got mood hurt. You've got mind hurt. You've got physical hurt. It hurts. And today I'm going to be breaking down the pain points that you will experience if you are trying to achieve fat loss. This is something that you will experience. You can depend on it. You can expect it. And don't say I didn't tell you, but you should get a note because I'm going to be moving very, very quickly. I'm going to take about 90 seconds on each one of those, right? And because these are pain points and sometimes they are emotional and psychological, which means intangible, which means you can't really point to them, but you feel them like they're in your head, right? Just because they're that way, I want to be specific about them. And this is the part that derails most people from long-term success and long before they get to that scale. Like this part right here is the part that gets them. So if you're tired of pretending, it's not just about food and workouts. Let's have this conversation. So the first pain point that hits really, really early, right, is that you feel invincible. Somebody put invincible in the chat if you ever feel invincible. Number one, I do not have a lot of time, but I want to say that I see you. The earliest stages of fat loss feel the loneliest. Did you get that? The earliest stages of fat loss feel the loneliest. Okay. And while no one notices, you start wondering if it is worth it. Boy, I tell you, this fat loss journey can be a lonely journey. If you've ever experienced loneliness in a fat loss journey, go ahead and put lonely into the chat so that anybody who watches this knows that they're not alone. I mean, you're doing the work, you're saying no to things, you're making adjustments, you're showing up, and your audience is small. Nobody's clapping for you, nobody's rooting you on, nobody's complimenting you. It's just you and a long, what seems to be consistently unchanging mirror. Right? This is where people fall off, right? Not because they are weak, but because they feel unseen. I see you. Can you please put that into the chat? I see you. I see you. I see you. And I want to give you just a little tip, right? Number one, acknowledge the silence and commit anyway. That's a bar every day of the week. I want you to acknowledge the silence and commit anyway. Write down commit anyway. Trust me, I'm right here with you. You feel invincible, but you're not invincible. And I want you to really, this really works for you if you're in your first 2 weeks, when the results are invisible. So if you've been in it less than 2 weeks, or this is your next journey and you're only 2 weeks in and you're ready to give up, trust me, you're not invincible. I see you. The early work is the foundation and it is not the finish line. You cannot come to the early work like it is the finish line. You have to come to it with this type of understanding. And this is what I spend a lot of my time on. If I could get some people to just commit to establishing a foundation, even in light of if you've tried multiple times, man, we begin building a customized framework that will reinforce the belief long before it starts changing. You got to believe it before you see it. I know that seems cliche, but I need you to get it. Okay. All right. So here it is. The second one is really heavy too. So the first one was that you feel invincible. The second one is that you feel judged. It's so funny that sometimes you feel judged even without an audience, right? Fat loss makes you question how people see you, right? How they feel about you, right? Changing your body does not stop the looks. It starts them. Hear me, hear me, hear me. Changing your body does not start the looks. It does not stop the looks. It starts them. You start eating differently, people start looking at you. You start skipping out and changing your response to invitations, people start looking at you. You start saying no and people start twisting their heads. You ever had that? You're like, nah, I'm good. And they looking at you like, what? I thought this was your favorite. I thought this is what you do. And they remind you of who you were. And sometimes people notice, right? And not always in a kind way. Sometimes they come with jokes. Sometimes they come with attitudes. Sometimes they come with mimicry. Sometimes they come with sarcasm. And you'll hear these comments and you'll feel these stares, and that will feel like judgment to you, whether it is real or imagined. We do know that sometimes feelings are not facts, but you start to feel this way. And I know you feel this way sometimes, right? And it can crush your confidence if you are not ready. So this is where I'm gonna say something cliche, and you hear people say it all the time, but it's really true. And that is that you have to protect your peace. Come on, I'm giving you bars. You got to protect your peace and you have to protect your progress. Like sometimes you don't even give yourself metrics to establish your progress because you're so early, but you got to protect that anyway. As soon as outside opinions start creeping in, how can they creep in? You're rolling through social media. You're seeing other people's progress. You're looking at their stuff and it feels like they're talking to you, or you're looking at their comments and it feels like people are judging you, even though they're really paying attention to somebody else. This is when you need to protect your peace. Like some people need to be growing in a community that expects them to grow instead of expecting social media to do that for you. It is why a lot of people sometimes post and they're trying to gain affirmation by affirming where they are and they're not working. They're saying, I like my body just the way it is. You're not really being honest about that, but you got to do something because you feel judged, even though you're trying, you haven't seen the results yet. So why would you do that, right? Because fat loss is hard enough without carrying other people's insecurities. Can I tell you that I feel for people who have bags and loads of insecurity that are heavy by themselves, and then they dare have to confront or face the insecurity of other people? I need you to be free from that. This is why I want to invite people to work with me, man, because I make sure that you are addressing and acknowledging your own insecurity, but we also got to acknowledge where insecurity isn't yours. You're borrowing or carrying somebody else's insecurity and you've made it yours. And this is becoming a challenge for you, right? So how do we build up the mental shields, man? This thing is work, right? Fat loss hurts and you got to protect yourself, all right? I got to move on to the third one because I can't stay here long. What's the third pain point? And it is the most misunderstood. And that is this idea of grief. Has anybody ever went into a fat loss journey and started grieving your old life, like the losses that you experience? Nobody tells you that you're going to have to grieve. And if you do not know how to grieve, if you have not grieved, if you have not established, you don't even know the grieving part of yourself, this fat loss journey can really, really push you into a corner or give you information about yourself that you weren't prepared to receive. And so I just want to encourage you. I just want to tell you that you will start grieving your old life. Fat loss means leaving behind the version of you that everyone was comfortable with, including you. Like, why, some people say, why would I do this? I am comfortable where I am. Well, remember, because your body has needs and you have desires for your body, and how your body feels and what your body is capable of doing is directly connected to this area of your life. Stop forcing your body to do a lot with a little. Stop putting your body at a high expectation when you're not necessarily giving your body what it needs, and understand that grief is a part of the process. And I know it true. Transformation feels like loss before it feels like gain. If I could just put that on a big sheet, loss comes before gain, right? Loss feels, grief comes before gain. This G comes before that G. Like, even in alphabetical order, it seems like GA would come before GR, but grief comes before gain. Okay, fat loss means that leaving behind the version of you. All right, so the food used to comfort you, you grieve it. The nights that used to be your reward, you grieve it, right? The habits that you used to smile about feels like you're giving up a identity. And I want to remind you that you're not giving up an identity, but the grief is real. You're just transforming one bit at a time. And if you ignore it, it will show up as sabotage. So acknowledge that you are moving through loss. How you feeling? I'm grieving. What am I grieving? I'm grieving my old self. I'm grieving my old habits. I'm grieving my old eating habits. And redefine who you are becoming. You have to do this when you feel guilty, or when you feel like you're right on the edge of outgrowing some of your old routines, right? And so please, 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 man, I would extend to you an opportunity, and I'm going to extend it to you now, an opportunity for us to really, really work together, man. And, I give free strategy calls just to help you to get on. And so I want to be sure that you get the opportunity to do that. This next one is buried underneath macros and gym selfies, is that you feel ashamed of your progress. Have you ever looked at yourself and you know you're changing, but you don't really feel the kind of gratitude, the kind of confidence that you expect to feel? Like, you feel ashamed, right? You asked for results and now you're scared of being seen. I deal with this a lot, man, particularly if you try to come off as humble or modest. This becomes a challenge for you. And so sometimes we fear being noticed more than we fear being ignored. Like, sometimes we feel like if we're noticed, there's a fear that comes along with that. We don't know how to manage it. We don't know how to balance it. We feel like if people start noticing us, we'll lose some of our drive, right? So you're finally seeing change, and now you feel exposed. People comment on your body. They're talking about your progress, and they ask you what you're doing. And suddenly it's all eyes on you, and you don't know how to receive that. I love to talk to you. I love to get in the space and chop with you because you're seeing progress. So I want to walk beside you. And this is what you can do. You can build confidence alongside your results. How to do that, we can talk about it. Right. And as soon as the compliments make you shrink, I got a poem that you should read. You should get in your heart and get in your mind, because sometimes you have to tell yourself and talk to yourself. I want to help you to do that. And remember, you didn't come to this so that you could not be seen. You wouldn't do all this work so you could hide. Man, come talk to me, man. Let's get this success and confidence combination just right for you. And let's ensure that you're able to show up without any resistance. Man, this is getting real good. This last one, and if you don't name it, it will crush you, is that you feel tired of starting over. Right? This is a pain point. I had to start over again. I got to do something different. Absolutely. And this time it is going to work. Right? Nobody talks about how exhausting it is to keep trying. Nobody talks about the repetition of getting up and starting again. That's why I like burpees as an exercise, as a side note. But nobody really likes to talk about how difficult that is, right? Consistency is about more than discipline. It is about healing your relationship with failure. I'm going to say that again. Consistency is about more than discipline. It is also about healing your relationship with failure. And while some of us are at odds with failure, we're afraid of failure, failure has wounded us beyond what we want to acknowledge. I want to tell you that you can heal your relationship with failure, and it can begin to be helpful to you if you let it. Every single failed attempt leaves a scar. Everyone restarts feeling heavier, but you're strong enough to get to it. And eventually, it's not the weight on your body, it's the weight on your belief and your mind and your framework. And you're unmotivated and you just don't feel like trying again. And while this transcends fitness and fat loss, for fat loss, you can do it again. And so we just want to get you to address your emotional weight, right? Before chasing your physical goals. Like some of you guys started backwards, where you just jumped into fitness and didn't acknowledge that you were tired. You don't feel like starting over. And you need somebody who could really work with you in that, right? Because you can't build a strong body with a broken spirit, right? Why would you do strong on the outside, weak on the inside? We want to get you there. And this is how we work with people. So this isn't just about fat loss. I want to remind you, this is about emotional strength. And it takes that to change when you face some of these pain points, when judgment is loud and when progress is scary. Now, here's the deal. If you're walking through any of this, I see you. As I said in the beginning, now build a space for people like you. Do me a favor and drop a comment if any of these spoke to you. I told you that I did not have a lot of time, so I've got to run. But fat loss isn't about getting smaller. It's about becoming a stronger version of yourself inside and out. I need y'all to share this with somebody who needs to hear this. And trust me, if you're climbing, I will meet you at the top. I don't mean to be quick, but I do mean to be intentional. I've given you 5 pain points. If you resonate with any of these, man, y'all go ahead and shout me out. I appreciate y'all. I've got to run. I'll talk to you later.